Here I am back again. It takes me a second to get everything back to where I'm supposed to be. I'm realizing that all you're seeing is my face, so I'll make sure that I don't make any bad gestures or anything towards you. Chapter 5, let's get right into it because it takes forever. Chapter 5 is about our skin. So we should be hearing some things that has to do with our body. How about that? All right. Remember, this is all it's one of the ways that we can understand reading scripture is by this code. All right. Jesus says, "It is impossible for a man to mount two horses or to stretch two bows, and it is impossible for a servant to serve two masters. Otherwise, he will honor the one and he will treat the other contemptuously. No man drinks old wine and immediately desires to drink new wine. And new wine is not put into old wineskins, lest they burst. Nor is old wine put into new wineskins, lest it spoil. An old patch is not sewn into a new garment, because a tear would result." It's kind of strange. That's number one, but it's setting up your body, your garment, old wine, new wine stuck together. This, at least you got wineskins in this story, whereas a lot of somehow weirdnesses have happened where they have changed that wineskin into a bottle. Wine doesn't spoil in bottles, and old wine doesn't make an old bottle burst. It just doesn't happen like that. But anyways, if they were animal skins and stuff like that, there's a chance that if you put new wine and old skin, it might, burst. And if you were, but that's just how that works. This is all talking about you, chapter 5. All right. And this is can a man mount two horses? Can he stretch two bows? Is it impossible for a servant to do that? No, it's the same idea. Can the fountain put out fresh water and salt water? Come on. It's all the same kind of thing. No, one is what we're looking for to fix everything. Okay. So that's chapter 5, 1. We'll start with 2 now. Jesus said, "Grapes are not harvested from thorns, nor are figs gathered from thistles, nor do not produce fruit. A man brings forth good from his storehouse. An evil man brings forth evil from his evil storehouse, which is in his heart, and says of evil things. For out of the abundance of his heart he brings forth evil things." All right, well, this may right now at this beginning, this idea, because remember we learned through the stories that most of everything comes from the heart, that negative side, because we've taken the lower aspects of things, and it's about emotions and stuff like that. And so this is how you bring about the evil from the evil storehouse, which is the heart, and that says, when it says evil things, this is, the Bible tells you this is nothing to be freaked out about. So what do we get out of 3? Jesus says, "Woe to the Pharisees, for they like dogs sleeping in a manger of an oxen. For neither does the dog eat, nor does the oxen eat." Okay, so we're on our way to something that's keeping us away from something. And I like that idea of dogs and Pharisees and stuff like that. They're sleeping down in the manger. It's like this idea of like they're that evil thing that's ready to just eat that baby, as soon as they can. And that's how I'm relating that right now. All right. I'm reading this my first time as you are. Okay, but the first one I went through and I just gave up. So, it's number 4. This is about worlds. Jesus said, "The Pharisees and the scribes have taken the keys of Gnosis and hidden them away. They themselves have not entered, nor have they allowed those who wish to enter to do so. You, however, be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves. That's for us, So there's this four worlds, and the Pharisees are talking about the outside world. They've taken away and hidden the keys, and and they keep those people that want. They don't enter in, and they don't want other people to enter in. The Pharisees is religion, and Jesus says, "Woe to the Pharisees, for they're like dogs sleeping in the manger." Oh, I've already done that one. 5. Jesus. That helps you to understand what these Pharisees are like. And I'm ready to feed from that trough is basically what they're ready to do. Jesus explained a grapevine has been planted outside of the Father, but being unsound, it will be pulled up by its roots and destroyed. That's our skin. That's 5. And 6, Jesus told them, if they say to you, "Where did you come from?" you say to them, "We came from the light," the place where the light came from, into being in its own accord, and established itself and became manifest through their image. If they say unto you, "What is your image?" say, "What are as children, that we are the elect of the living Father." If they say, "What is the sign of your Father?" and you say it to them, "It is movement and repose." It's beautiful. 7, Jesus said, "Do not give what is holy to dogs, lest they throw them on the dung heap. Do not throw the pearls to swine, lest they," and then there's an emptiness. And I would understand this idea, unless they, some way or another turn around. All right. He said, "Become passers-by." He says, "No prophet is accepted in his own village. No physician heals his own who know him." It kind of makes you feel a little, alone, you know. He said, "No prophet is accepted in his," oh, that's number 9. 10, because he's not accepted. You're going to kill this guy. You're about to, you're not accepted in your own home, which is your own place where you live in your skin. All right. Uh, we're not supposed to mount this to outside situations. It says we become passerbys. And he says, number 10. Jesus says, "Preach from the housetops, that you will hear and know, you will hear in your ear. For no one lights a lamp and puts it under a bushel, nor does he put it in a hiding place. For rather he sets it in a lampstand, and that everyone who enters and leaves will see its light." Number 11, Jesus said, "A city being built on a high mountain and fortified cannot fall, nor can it be hidden." It's number 11. 12, Jesus continued, Blessed are you when you are hated and persecuted. Wherever you have been persecuted, they will find no place." Jesus said, "Blessed is the man who has suffered and found life." He said, "Show me the stone which the builders have rejected. That stone is the cornerstone." And that's number 5. 14 makes 5. Number 15, Jesus went on, "Blessed are they who have been persecuted within themselves. It is they who have truly come to know the Father. Blessed are the hungry, for their belly of him who desire will be filled." Jesus said, number 16, "Whoever has something in his hand will receive more. And moreover, who has nothing will be deprived of even the little he has." That's from the robbers. Not the robbers that we know, that's from the outside. And number 18, Jesus said, "Blessed is the lion which becomes man when consumed by man, and cursed is the man who the lion consumes, and the lion becomes man." Number 18 is a beautiful one saying. Remember that idea, and I've said it several times. I don't know how many times it's been remembered, but the idea of, it's best that you consume the animal, let the animal consume you. You become its ass. Chapter 6. That whole thing was about our body. That's it. We are this sacrifice. Number 6. And they saw a Samaritan on his way to Judea. Can you believe that? That's just a little. It's just a little airplane. And they saw a Samaritan on his way to Judea carrying a lamb. And Jesus said to the disciple, "That man is round about the lamb." They replied, "So that he may kill it and eat it." And he answered, "While it is alive, he will not eat it, but only when he has killed it will he consume it and become a corpse. When killed and it has become a corpse." They said, "He cannot do otherwise." And Jesus said, "You too, look for a place within your repose, lest you become a corpse and be eaten." 6, it's talking about the works. This is the words of the wise. This is how they speak to us in a very dark language, and things are hidden. And it's like one of these things that started out, the whole business started out with, for those people with the eyes to hear, let them hear. I mean, ears to hear, let them hear. It's just so really cool. So, that when we go into repose, when we go into meditation, we don't seriously die. But, this idea that, there's in the text as well that wherever the corpse lies, the what do they call it? When something, wherever it is, the eagle shall come. You know, but that's just how they speak. Number 2, Jesus said, "Oh yeah, Jesus too. Get the place where you repose, lest you become a corpse and be eaten." All right. Jesus said, "Whoever has come to understand the world has found only a corpse. And whoever has found a corpse is superior to the world." We're just talking about things ahead of time. Number 3, Jesus said, "He who has reconciled the world has found the body. He who has found the body is superior to the world." Did I read that again? Damn it. He said, "Wretched is the body that is dependent upon a body, and wretched is a soul that is dependent upon these two." 5, Jesus said, "Woe to the flesh that depends on the soul. Woe to the soul that depends on the flesh." And Jesus continued, "If the flesh came into being because of the spirit, it is a wonder. But if the spirit came into being because of the body, it is a wonder of wonders indeed. I'm amazed at how the great wealth has made its home in such poverty." That sounds pretty cool. 7, the disciples said to him, "When will the repose of the dead come about? And when will the new world come?" He said to them, "What you look forward to is already come, but you do not recognize it." Jesus said, "This heaven will pass away, and only one above it will pass away. The dead are not alive, and the living will not die. If the days when you consume what is dead, you may it you when you com- when you consume what is dead, you make it what is alive. So you are what you eat. What you come to dwell in the light, what you do, what will you do? On the day that when you were one, you became two. But when you become two, what will you do?" And number 9, Jesus said, "When you make the two one, you will become the sons of man. And when you say, 'Mountain, move away,' it will move away." We've heard this already on number 9. When we can make the two one. He says, because he went on, the heavens and the earth will be rolled up in your presence. And the one who lives from the living one will not see death. Does not Jesus say, whoever finds himself is superior to the world? Yeah, it's kind of interesting. He's superior. He's winds up being the boss of himself. All right, to take that, to take that down a notch or two. Jesus says in this number 11, take heed of the living one while you're alive, lest you die and seek to seek him and be unable to do so. This number 11, we only have a couple more. Hope I remember this. I'm telling you, there is no other place out there. Jesus said this in a Gnostic text that never made it into the Bible. It says, take heed of the living one while you're alive, the living Father, lest ye die and seek to see him and be unable to do so. All right? That means giving up the ghost. Jesus said, come unto me, for my yoke is easy and my lordship is mild, and you will find repose in yourself. Jesus concluded, number 13, he who is near me is near the fire, and he who is far from me is far from the kingdom. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We come to number 7. Number 7 is this, remember, it's the cleaning part of the story. We have to come dirty. So that's why all these stories are coming in here. Look at you guys stink, Chapter 7, the disciples asked Jesus, tell us what the kingdom of heaven is like. And he said to them, it was like a mustard seed, and the smallest of all the seeds. And when it falls into tilled soil, it produces a great plant and becomes a shelter for the birds of the sky. This is that idea of planting that seed inside of you, and it's the Kundalini system, and it gives a place for birds to nest. This is this idea of they have a place to watch. These are the birds that sit there and wait and watch to see when you're ready to go. It's Cinderella and all these things and stuff like that. Being next to Jesus, being next to the fire and stuff like that. He shares this place with this female energy. It's just very interesting. Even though, he gives it up to mother, it's generally a damsel in this particular place. In most all the other stories. But anyways, we're not supposed to know Jesus as male or female. Anyways, he's in spirit. That's how he is. And we're neither male or female when we are in spirit. What do we have here? It says to them, it's like a mustard seed. Okay, so it's the smallest of seed that we plant. It's just a beautiful way of saying it. I just like to throw that in every now and then to show you I only really know how to speak, bad English. That's all, and I only know how to speak like those guys from the Peanuts. All right. So anyways, let's see here. Number 2, Jesus said the kingdom of the Father is like a man who had good wheat seed. His enemy came in by night and sowed weeds among the wheat. But the man did not allow them to pull up the weeds. He said to them, I'm afraid that you'll go in an intention to pull up the weeds and pull up the wheat along with them. So no, we'll wait till that day of harvest and the weeds will come be plainly visible, and then they could then pull up and be burned, So when we're going to pull them up? And Jesus continued, the kingdom of Father is like a woman who was carried a full jar of meal. But when she was walking down the road, still some distance from her home, it collapsed and broke, and the meal emptied out into the road behind her. But she did not realize this, and she had noticed no accident. But she reached her house. She set up the jar down and found it empty. Jesus said the kingdom of Father is like a woman who took a little leaven, hid it in some dough, and thus made it into large loaves of bread. Let him who have the ears to hear. Now, I'm not ready to give it up yet. Jesus continued, the kingdom of the Father is like a woman who was carrying a jar of meal while she was walking down the road, still some distance from her house. She collapsed, broke, and meal emptied out of it on the road behind her. And she did not realize this. It was very interesting. Let me go a little further to find out what we're talking about. The kingdom is like a man who had a treasure hidden in his field without him knowing it. After he died, when he left the field to his son and did not know about this treasure either, when he inherited the field, he sold it and was brought with that. And the one who bought it and plowed it and found the treasure, and he began to lend money at interest to whoever he wished. If you have money, however, do not lend it in interest, but rather give it to someone who will not give it back. Very interesting. Jesus said, whoever finds the world and becomes rich, let him renounce the world. These are all negative sides. This kingdom of man, the kingdom is like a man. Jesus went on, the kingdom of the Father. It's like a woman who had taken the leaven and some dough and made large loaves of bread. This this is showing the a solid side. This is not a good thing. This idea that you want, when the Son of Man cometh in the cloud, he is on his way to give you change from this Son of Man, from this the kingdom, from this side. It says, if you find the world and you becomes rich, let him renounce the world. This is 7. This is the opposite side of things. Jesus added, let him who has grown rich be king, and let him who possesses power renounce it. 9, we'll find out. This one here will tell us 9. Jesus said, the kingdom of the Father is like a man who wants to kill a powerful man in his house, in his own house. He drew the sword and stuck it into the wall in order to find out whether his hand would carry him through. Then he slew the powerful man. Very interesting. He said, blessed are the poor, for yours is the kingdom of heaven. Well, we understand that, you have to have nothing in there. You have to have hated your mother and father in order to bring about this. So this is when you're blessed is the poor. Remember, it's the meek that inherit the earth. It says this. Jesus went on, the kingdom of the Father is like a merchant who had consignment of merchandise, and who discovered a pearl. All of these are stories about someone actually finding something amongst it while they were plowing. So it's always given to someone who finds this. But let's see, this number 9, it says the kingdom of the Father. Let's just go back here. It says the kingdom of the Father is a powerful man. This, and you want a sword, you want to kill this guy. It's like, taking over this monster, taking over the boss's spot is what you're trying to do. You want to get rid of this monster, and that's what they call it. In this one here, they would say that, that he was a powerful man. And number 12, he concludes that kingdom is like a shepherd who had 100 sheep. One of them, the largest, went astray, and he left the 99 to look for that one until he finally found it. And when he had gone to such trouble, he said to the sheep, I care for you more than the 99. This is a good thing. This bottom story, part of this here, let's go back here real fast up into this chapter 7. Chapter 7 usually is about cleaning up. You're taking over and cleaning your soul. This is where fire usually happens. We heard that on the other side of the stories. Jesus is sitting there on the sixth chakra watching the fire burns, and he wants to make sure it's going to be nice and, uh, you know, well burned before it's all over with. You know, um, this kingdom of heaven, let him grow rich, be king. Perhaps this eight is this idea, and let him who possesses renounce it. Okay, so Jesus added, let him who grown rich. This would be this idea of probably in worlds, because this would be on the eight. So if you were to grow rich, you now are in charge, and the one who did have the world, he has to renounce it. So that's what that is. Yeah, I understand that now. 8 and 9 and 10, they all work out just great. You know, you can read this. I found this on this place. It's called graveworm.com, occult text. Judas, this is the story of Judas. Graveworm is where this comes from. Graveworm.com. Shout out to that guy. Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is about control. This will be something along those lines. His disciple asked him, when will the kingdom come? They've been asking him all these stories. They've been asking him from the very beginning, what's going to be our end? Well, when you find the beginning, you'll find the end. You'll find you'll be at the same time, and I was talking earlier about, you were given your life before you're given life, stuff like that. Jesus replied, I will not come by waiting for it. I will not be a matter of saying, here it is, or there it is. Rather, the kingdom of Father is spread out upon the earth, but men do not see it. This is set up. All right. His disciples said to him, show us the place where you are, since it's necessary for us to seek it. And he said unto them, whoever has ears, let them hear. Let the light within a man of light, as he lights up the whole world. If he does not shine, he is darkness. Jesus said, two will rest on a bed. One will die, and the other will live. Shalom. Salome says, who are you, man, that you have sat upon my couch and eaten from my table? Jesus said to her, I am he who exists from the undivided. I was given some of the things from my Father. And Salome said, I am your disciple. Therefore I say, if he is destroyed, he will be filled with light. But if he is divided, he will be filled with darkness. It's about the two-minded man, the two-minded person. Jesus said to her, I am he who exists from the undivided. I will give some of the things of my Father. Oh, shoot. Reading it all again. I'm going to have to keep going. Dooby-doo. Just wanted to get that in your head. Here's number 4. His disciples asked him, who are you that you should say these things to us? And he answered, you do not realize who I am from what I say to you. You have come like the Jews, or for they either love the tree or hate its fruit, or else love the fruit and hate the tree. His disciples replied, well, tell us, who are you? Oh, what is this? Tell us who you are, so that we may believe in you. And he said to them, you read the face of the sky and the earth, but you cannot recognize the one who is before you. And you do not know how to read this moment. Jesus asked them, this is number 6, why did you come out of the desert with me? To see the reeds shaken by the wind? To see man clothed in fine garments, like your kings and your great men, upon them with the fine garments, them with the unstable and discern but they are unable to discern the truth. Jesus told them, I took my place in the midst of the world, and I appeared to them in the flesh. I found all of them intoxicated. I found them none of them thirsty, and by my soul became afflicted for the sons of men, because they are blind in their hearts. They are blind in their hearts and do not have any sight. For empty they came into the world, and empty they seek to leave the world. But for the moment they are intoxicated. When they shake off their wine, they will repent. That's number 7. That's beautiful. 8. The disciples wondered, when will you become revealed to us? And when shall we see you? It's number 8. Jesus said, when you disrobe without being ashamed, and take up your garments and place them under your feet like little children, and tread upon them. When you will see this, then you will see the Son of the living one, and you will not be afraid. Number 9. He added, do not be concerned with morning until evening, and from evening until morning with what you wear. Number 10. Jesus said, the images are manifest to man, but the light in them remains concealed in the image of the light of the Father. He will become manifest, but his image will remain concealed by his light. 11. Jesus says, when you see your likeness, you rejoice. But when you see the image which came into being before you, and which neither die nor become manifest, how much will you have to bear? Number 12, Jesus said, you see the mote in your brother's eyes, but you do not see the beam in your own. When you cast the beam out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to cast the mote from your brother's eyes. He said, if a blind man leads a blind man, they will both fall into a pit. All right, so the last couple of ones are, if you, this is the other, this, and this, everything's great, but if you don't do this, this is going to happen. That's number 8. There's a lot of, we call the blind reading the blind nowadays is basically any evangelist, anybody who believes in the outside of the Bible, and those that preach the outside of the Bible are blasphemers. That's just the idea that, if you have to believe that, this wonderful Father above us gives the child up to be beaten, destroyed, and that's really the part that you believe in, it makes you love this thing because of the hatred and the negativity behind such an act, will lock you. You'll never, that's blasphemy against the mother, and it'll never be forgiven. Never. Maybe not the second time around, but as long as you talk and think like that, it's not going to work. Chapter 9, it says, Jesus said, a man. Number 9 is a line of consciousness. Let's see where this is going with this. It says, number 1, Jesus said a man had received visitors. And once he had prepared for dinner, he sent his servant to invite the guest in. And the servant went to the first and said, my master invites you in. The guest replied, I have claims against some merchants that are coming to me this evening. I must go and give them my orders. I ask to be excused from dinner. So the servant went to another and said to him, my master has invited you. And the guest replied, I have just bought a house and I'm required for the day. I shall have no spare time. So the servant went to another guest and said, my master invites you and the guest replied, my friend, I'm going to get married and I'm in to prepare for the banquet and I shall not be able to come. I asked to be excused from the dinner. And then the third went to the last quest and said, my master invites you in. And the guest replied, I have just bought a farm and I am on my way to collect the rent. I shall not be able to come. And I asked to be excused. And the servants returned to his master and said, those whom you invited to dinner have asked to be excused. And the master said to his servant, then go out into the streets and bring back those with whom you happen to meet, so that they may dine. And businessmen and merchants will not enter the place of my father. What does this say in here? Then go out into the street and bring back those whom you happen to meet, so that they may dine. Businessmen and merchants will not enter the place of my father. Okay, that's setting us up. Number one, it's saying if you're too busy buying and selling and you're always in this business, just busy, too busy, you're not ever going to make it into this place, is what they're saying. And he's went to the 5 pieces. He went to the 5 brethren. He went to 5 neighbors. He went to the 5 and they were just too busy. All right. He said there was a good man who owned a vineyard. He leased it to tenants, farmers, so that they might work and they might collect the produce from them. He sent out his servants so that the tenants might give him produce of the vineyard. And he seized the servant and beat him and killed him. And the servant went back and told his master and said that perhaps they did not recognize him. So he sent yet another servant, and the tenants beat this one as well. And the owner sent his son and said, perhaps they will show respect to my son. But because the tenants knew that it was because they were going to air the vineyard, they seized him and killed him too. Yet let him who has ears to hear, understand this idea that right now it's in a rebellious mode. Number 2 is not putting in anything. It's the idea that anytime he sent somebody nice, just like in the book about Jesus coming in, they killed him. Anytime something good came in, they killed it. There's an idea that he had a vineyard. It's also about thoughts, that this every time he had something good coming in, they killed it. Every time a good thought came in, they killed it. This is Cain killing Abel, and it always happens. This is the intellect always overcoming the spiritual side. That's number 2. So we know that 3, let's see what happens in this. 3, Jesus said, now a farmer went out, took a handful of seeds and scattered them. Some fell on the road, and the birds came and ate them up. Others fell on rock, so did not take root in the soil and did not produce ears. And some fell on the thorns, which were choked in the seeds, and the worms ate them. And some fell on good soil and produced good fruit. They bore 60 per measure and 120 per measure. 1, 2, and 3, and 60. This is 6 and 3. This is a good thing. We know about this parable. We've heard it in different forms, and we know that this is the idea that this is a east to west situation, or west to east, where you finally got to the right spot. Now that's 3. All right. This is 3 is being joined together. 4, Jesus said that, and it was a travel. 3 was a traveling from this piece of shit person to this better place. All right. 4, Jesus said that man is like a wise fisherman who cast his net into the sea and drew it up full of small fishes. Among them the fisherman found a fine large fish, and he drew so he threw all the small fish back into the sea and chose the large fish without difficulty. Whosoever has the ears to hear them, let them hear. This is the 4th world. This is number 4. It's just beautiful, you guys. When you're casting your nets out there, this casting to the right side of the brain, you're going to pull up 153 fish. This is going to be a 9. It's the higher side. You're going to take the bigger. You're going to take the larger without difficulty. Number 5, Jesus went on. He says, there was a rich man who had much money. He said, I shall put my money to use that I may sow, reap, plant, and fill my storehouse with produce, and then I shall lack nothing. Such where were his intentions. But the same night he died. Let him who has the ears to hear. Now, never know when that's going to happen. Jesus concluded, the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. Beseech the Lord, therefore, to send out laborers to do the harvest. This is 9. It's a good thing, this idea that it has made it over to the other side. Listen, there are often few people. We're talking about the harvest. There's few people to do this job of bringing people into the light. That sickle going over there, chop, chop. And you have to make haste when you're doing it. All right, we're almost over this business here. And we have chapter 10 coming in. Chapter 10 is a 1. Generally, it's a speaking of, well, let's see what happens. Jesus says, many times you have desired to hear these words which I'm saying to you, and you have no one else to hear them from. There will be days when you will look for me, and you will not find me. The disciples replied, we know that you will depart from us. Who is to be our leader then? And Jesus told them, wherever you are to go to James the righteous, for whose sake heaven and earth came into being. And Jesus said, where there are 3 gods, there are gods. Number 3, Jesus said, where there are 3 gods, they are gods. Where there are 2 or 1, I am there. Let's see, we got 3, 4, and 5. I am there. Because it's when the 5 are gathered. This is this. When there are 3 gods, they are gods. When there are 2. Oh, or 1. We're going to have to think about that one for a minute. Jesus said, it is of who I am, the light, which is above them all. It is I who am all. From me did all come from, and unto me did the all extend. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Split a stone, I be found there. Ooh, I think that's beautiful. They're always talking about this splitting. We want to take this apart, it's split in 2. This idea of one side is going to be die and the other one is going to be given back alive, brought to life. And, you're not really dead, but this idea of splitting. All right. Jesus said, one knows, feels a personal deficiency. He is completely deficient. All right. Jesus says, if one who knows the all still feels a personal deficiency, he is completely deficient. Really? Jesus asked of his disciples, compare me to someone and tell me who I am like. Simon Peter said to him, you are like a righteous angel. Matthew said to him, you are like a wise philosopher. Judas said to him, Master, my mouth is wholly incapable of saying who you are like. Jesus replied to Judas, I am not your master, because you have become intoxicated from the bubbling spring which I have measured out. And he took Judas and withdrew and took him 3 things. When Judas returned to his companions, they asked him, what did Jesus say to you? And Jesus said to him, if I tell you just one of the things which he told me, you will pick up stones and throw them at me. A fire would come out of the stones and burn you up. This is a wonderful setup, because he says he was told of things and they wanted to know what he says. And if I told you what you're going to do, first they'll be really mad at him, right? things that he told me, you'll pick up stones and throw them at me, you know, and a fire would come out of the stones and burn you up. Well, that's because they're the brethren. Judas is another part of the body, the people, the group that's inside of us, that are in this group of people, Jesus, that have to do this job. All right. So this is, you know, this is the end of the story. And it says down here, cursed be anyone who exchanges these things for a gift, or for food, or for drink, or for clothing, or for any such thing. Let's see, boom. Let's see, for a gift, for food, for drink, for clothing, or for any such thing. Well, it's 4 or 5. Well, I give all this stuff away for free. I don't know what any of my friends and devils out there do with this information that I give them. But do you understand that they just brought in Judas and that was it? And the last in it, they were all, this is really cool. Number 6 is his disciples asked him. Remember, they're all gathered together. That's what the 6 is all about. 6 is about. They're all gathered together. And um, uh, 5, let's just go back to 5. And this is our body. If anyone knows the all, still feels a little personal deficiency. He is completely deficient. This is 5. This is on your way. This is the skin. It's completely deficient. Jesus asked of his disciples, compare me to someone and tell me who I am. This is on the 6th chakra. All right. Jesus would say that this is of his disciples, compare me to someone. He says, you're a righteous angel. Matthew, it says, you're a wise philosopher. Judas tells him, says, Master, my mouth is holy and capable of saying what you are like. Judas, it's just, Jesus replied to Judas, I am not your master, because you have drunk. Because you have drunk. You have become intoxicated with a bubbling spring, which I have measured out. Oh, I understand. And he took Judas and withdrew him. 3 things. When Judas returned to his companions, they asked him, what did Jesus say to you? Jesus said it to them. If I were to tell you one of the things which he told me, you will pick up stones, throw them at me, and a fire would come out of the stones and burn you up. If it did anything to stop this from happening, because that would be going against God's wishes if they were to find out ahead of time that he was supposed to do these things. Listen, it shows that Jesus, I have this job for you to do. All right. And we find out later on, these damn airplanes, this is a big one. Listen, Jesus replied to Judas, says, I'm not your master, because you have drunk. You have become intoxicated from a bubbling spring, which I have measured out. So Judas, this is how they're looking at him, that he has poured out. This is like his brother. So Judas is this, his side of him that's got to give him up. Do you understand? It's like his brother. It's his twin. That's how this is working out. It just came to me that this is, look, it just raised the hairs on my arm. Because you're drunk. You made drunk. I've made you drunk. And he took him in. Just going to tell him these 3 things. I just know this is so beautifully written. He's been made drunk off the wine. That all these guys, when you make this up to the top of the zone, and he becomes his own boss. That's why he says, I'm not your master. He says, because he's God's your master. His father's his master now. How really cool. You're intoxicated with the bubbling spring, which I have measured out. Remember, he's the one. If you can drink from my well, you'll never thirst again. So, this is actually this idea of Judas in the story when he gives the rest of the group the kind of like their walking papers, where they said, listen, that's the guy, they asked, who's going to betray you, who's going to betray you, one of you is going to betray you, out of storage space. Oh, okay, well, it's over with. It said I've reached the end of it. That's to you. Hmm. 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 And stop.